Hi, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about a clerk in Southfield who's been charged of election fraud, but she still wants to run. So I think there's been so much talk of election fraud. We have someone who's actually really shady that there's ample evidence for. So I want to highlight her, especially if you live in Michigan. They say it's not widespread. Well, it happens. No one denies that it happens. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to be talking about how Southwest has been canceling flights, and they're pretty mum on why. And it seems like they're kind of now saying that they don't have enough staff, but they're saying it's not a union sort of form sick out protest, but it seems like that's what it is, or maybe that's just a consequence of people getting fired and stuff for the mandates, or preparing to leave or not work because of the mandates. But it's an obvious side effect, so we're going to be talking about that. Also, some pop culture stuff. New York Times reported that DC Comics, which Marvel Comics has gone really woke, but so has DC. And apparently Superman, which this isn't surprising, Superman has a son that is gay. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the pop culture stuff. And I think culture stuff is important, so we're going to get to that. Before I jump into everything, I do want to say thank you to everyone who issued, condolences and prayers for my family. As you guys know, my grandmother passed, I guess about more than a week ago now. But we had the funeral for her on Friday, and it was a lovely service. And I kept telling people, she lived to be 102. She had a great life. She was a godly woman, no doubt where she went. So it wasn't very hard, at least for me. But when I did see, her lying there, I can say a good thing about Mass is that they do hide your ugly cry face. Because I just started kind of blubbering for a moment, and I did have to sing. So I was like, gosh, I hope I can get through this, and I did. And but she's on to a better place. But I thank you all for your condolences and your patience as far as you not being on the air around too much. I do want to thank Brighter Michigan PAC for allowing me for being a sponsor, allowing me to use the studio. As always, they don't care. If I trigger you, I don't care. If I trigger you, you can just scroll on. It's just a mutual relationship. They're not my boss. No one can fire me for speaking the truth. And they seem to like what I say anyway. So it's just there's nowhere to cry to. And so I do want to talk about something really cool that they did. I'm going to bring in a friend of mine, Gabi. How you doing?
Hi, Christina. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. So the Brighter Michigan PAC did something that was pretty awesome yesterday. You guys did a good old-fashioned lit drop. And I know some people, for some reason, don't think lit drops work, like they're too old-fashioned, but to me, that's more effective than, social media is fast, but some people you can't be reached that way because they don't use it. And there's, especially if you're an older person, and that's a really more solid voting base like teenagers who might be on TikTok or something. So I think lit drops in mailers and things like that are still very effective. So yesterday, people from the PAC and volunteers came out and just dropped lit with a subject with this Southfield clerk. Now, tell me a little bit about this clerk that you guys are targeted and trying to get rid of for the meantime.
Okay, so the current incumbent clerk for the city of Southfield, her name is Sharika Hawkins. We happen to have a mugshot of her right here on the lit drop we did.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Oh, you got it. Great. She was elected for the first time in 2017. The big midterm election in 2018, it turns out that she committed election fraud. Now, she hasn't been convicted, but she was charged with 6 felonies, which are listed on the screen right now. 6 felonies while she's in office. This isn't she drove under the influence or behaved in a certain way outside. This is directly related to her job. And in Southfield, unless you're convicted, you continue your job in office. However, she's not allowed to supervise elections, which is practically the entire job. So she's running for reelection now in 21. And I'm a resident in Southfield. Now, I don't want to be living in a city where an incumbent clerk who's been charged with 6 felonies, violating the oath of her office, it just runs unelected, uncontested, rather. And thank God there is a challenger, but the slit drop yesterday had nothing to do with the challenger. It has to do with informing the residents about the incumbent clerk right before an election. I think it's our responsibility, and the PAC did take this on to arrange it and get the volunteers. And it's their disclaimer on the bottom of the literature drop, is the required to by law, and we're not ashamed of it, to inform the residents of Southfield what's on the ballot and what's the consequences. And when you're going to vote for a clerk who's facing election fraud charges, and her court date, I believe, is for October, the end of this month, though, the way things goes, it might get pushed off. But we need to know that you're voting for a clerk. She's out there campaigning, saying, I have 18 years experience, not in Southfield, but where she was a clerk before. And she does have a ton of experience. However, she's not allowed to supervise elections, which is what is the primary job of the clerk. So we got together, we put together many clerks. Southfield has 65,000 registered voters. We're obviously not going to hit all of them, but we spread out strategically on the map to various areas, and we put it not in mailboxes because that's illegal, but on doors, on doorways, and in the newspaper slot, on the mailboxes that are by the street, in the flag, just to get the word out. Look, you have a clerk that's a crook, and you should be aware of that before this upcoming election.
Now, do you think that, because it kind of seems like maybe they may be going a little easy on her, do you think, and she got an award that was like Democrat of the Year at one point in time from like Debbie Dingell and some other Democrats, right?
Of course, and had she done more election fraud, she would have even been put on a bigger stage, I imagine. It is a Democrat award. You don't get it for running elections honestly, right? I'm kidding. I think that it had nothing to do with this, but one of the biggest questions we were asked while we were doing literature drop, and what I'm asking, because that's what they want to know, if Republican or Democrat, people, the residents. And we're at a point politically where people don't necessarily care that the clerk's been charged. They just want to know, okay, Republican or Democrat. Now, clearly, this is a nonpartisan race. When you run for local elections, there's no party affiliation with that. And my answer to that is this. Look, if there's 2 candidates on a ballot, and the first one is actively charged with election fraud and felonies charges, I don't need to know much about candidate 2. That's who I'm voting for. I'm not voting for candidate 1. And that's regardless to party affiliation. We need to realize that, us as conservatives, Christina, and I see you at many events, and a lot of us are promoting the same things. Some of us are stronger about election integrity. Some of us want to look forward. Some of us want to look back. Some of us want to focus on pro-life. We all have our hot button point. But regardless, even if we want to look forward or we're talking about other stuff, there is no question that we all have a sore spot about what happened in 2020. It hurts us all. During November, in December, in January, we were all in pain. We were all hurting. We were all talking. We all vowed to ourselves we're going to do something about it to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if we just allow a clerk who is charged with election fraud charges in 2018, is what she's charged for. In 2020, she wasn't allowed to oversee election. But
isn't that crazy? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is crazy.
That is crazy. And this is a clerk.
Because I mean, clerks, there are a lot of other things that clerks have to do. But the 2020 election was so insane because it changed so much with the mail-in voting, and clerks were just overwhelmed. So that even the people who had to pick up her slack because she couldn't do her job it had to have been insane. I had to.
It's a presidential election. A presidential election is the biggest election cycle we have every 4 years.
It
If
was
you're a
unlike
clerk,
any presidential election we've ever had because of COVID and the restrictions that they had.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
it just
yes,
blows my mind.
yes.
Maybe we need to talk to some of the people she worked with, had to pick up her slack. Maybe.
Yeah, right. See how they feel about it. Right, right. But my point that I'm making is, and you are correct. She couldn't be in with that. But if we turn around and we after the promises we made to ourselves after the November 2020 election, allow a clerk and not do everything we can to try and get her out of office, then what are we doing the rest of the time?
Yeah.
We get together in meetings and we talk. It's got to have action to it. So we did a call to action. We got a bunch of volunteers, a bunch of crews. We actually actively went out against a clerk who's charged with felonies of election fraud.
So what was? Did you have any sort of reaction? What with the people yesterday? Did they have any? I'm assuming a lot of people didn't know. So what was the reaction that people had when they found out?
Yeah, so I'm I'm a non-confrontational guy. I try and avoid confrontation.
Hmm.
So I wasn't into anyone's face, but we were walking down two sides of the street, and I'm thanking God that there's no one in the driveways. I could sneak in and put my piece of literature in the door. But my partner walking down the street came across a few encounters,
Hmm.
and yeah, listen, it was just look, I'm dropping off literature for the upcoming election. Is it okay? What is it? This is informing residents about one of the candidates that she's really violated her out of office. She's standing trial, and you should know before you vote. And people are like, okay, great. Thank you for leaving that down. I'm sure many people read it. Many people didn't read it. I imagine that there is a buzz about this. I would think.
You would hope.
I would hope.
You would.
I came home and there was one on my door, and it wasn't me who dropped it off there.
Well, at least you know the people are getting around, and we can check.
Yeah, right, right. They didn't just go take a nap.
Well, I commend everyone who went yesterday. I showed a picture of some of the volunteers. You can tell who's taking the selfie since Eric is in all of them. But
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
um, but no, I really appreciate the people willing to do this, all the volunteers who came out, and hopefully there's another drive and we can continue to push this issue, because it doesn't make sense for people not to be engaged when when there's something shady going on. Now, of course, she's still entitled to her due process and her,
Yeah.
uh and everything hopefully will come out in the side of justice. But to think that she couldn't even participate in the 2020 election because of this, she should have stepped down. She should have stepped down, in my opinion. That was
Yeah.
insidiously crazy time.
Yep. Or not run again.
Yeah, or at least not run again.
Or
Or
at
at
least
least
not run again. Or at least in your campaign, explain to people why you should make a case, even though you're about to stand trial, you should get voted for. She's completely ignoring it. The media is completely not covering it. It's not getting any attention. And I really want to commend and thank the PAC and all the volunteers, because when I mentioned this to them, they took this on, and they realized, yes, this is a race that we should be um, doing something about, whatever we can. So, yeah,
well, I appreciate that. To the people who did know, now you do know, and you can get involved. It was somehow let the people of Southfield know, because people make a lot of decisions because they're not informed about decisions. So even if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever, everyone wants their elections to be run smoothly and know that they can trust the vote with however you decide to vote. So someone being charged with these things, 6 different felonies related to election fraud, that is pretty intense. So go out and make informed decisions and tell your neighbors. And I think there's some people who are pretty stuck on party, but there's a lot of people out there who are very reasonable, and if they like you anyway, which the person running against her will have to make that case, but a lot of times people will cross the aisle if they do genuinely like you. So I guess the PAC can let people know about that person, and the candidate will have to go make her case.
yeah, right. And like you said, there is due process coming up, and we're all entitled to that. However, there is one encouraging sign for the people who care about election justice: is out of her 6 felony charges, she managed to get 4 of them dismissed. However, The Dana Nessel Department of Justice is appealing that decision. That's how bad the evidence is against her. And they want those 4 charges reinstated. So the Democrats are going after her to get the other 4 charges reinstated. It just comes to tell you that even they can't completely ignore this.
Wow. Well, I guess kudos to them.
Yeah.
Kudos to them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to quickly, alert the audience about it because people talk about fraud and there's something actually out there. So I want people to be informed, especially since a lot of people watch are in Michigan. So thank you very much for coming on and telling everybody about it. And Godspeed. And I really do appreciate the work that you and the Brighter Michigan Pact did the other day.
Yep. And thank you so much for promoting this and talking about this. It's an important topic. We need to know about these things. Thank you, Christina.
Yep. Thank you, Gabby.
All right. Good day.
All right. So be informed and go out there and get the work done. As if you're in the Southfield area, you don't have to live in Southfield to participate and let these people know. It's really bigger, I think, than one area. But let your friends and family know, especially if they live in Southfield, that there's a some bad actors running the show. That just floors me. They couldn't even participate in 2020 and oversee the elections, which was craziest elections of our time. So yeah, let's get back on the main topics of the day. Before I jump into it, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content that I have on the website. I got in some new things the other day. These pumpkin spice season mugs. I'm really proud of them. I drew the little chibi Trump myself, but if it's pumpkin spice season, they call him the orange pumpkin and so on. So I made a little mugs right there, so you can guys can get them in black, orange, and red. And the picture show them at different angles. So you can go ahead and get those mugs for your fall season. And I also do have them in shirts. It's pumpkin spice season. So you guys can check that out, get those on the website. I also had this cool My Money, My Business shirt because I was so sick of people in the pro-choice aisle being like, it's not any of your business. At the same time where they're trying to get rid of the Hyde Amendment, at the same time they want us to fund Planned Parenthood. And you can use it for a whole host of other issues. But, if you are asking the taxpayers to foot the bill, it really is a collective business. So you can get that shirt at blacktnews.com. Also got stuff with, the logo on it. Got the You Are Not That Special shirt in the mugs. You got all kinds of other stuff you guys can check out on the website. Check something out, pick it up. Also, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. If you appreciate what I do here, if you'd like to help Black Teen News see it expand, see it grow, go ahead and consider leaving a donation on the website. So let's get to our meme of the day, or comic of the day in this case. I got my good friend G Prime 85. I use this stuff all the time. But here you see, unless you get the jab, you can't come back to work anymore. So someone leaves, employee leaves, and he's sitting there. He's like, why is no one coming in anymore? Very straightforward right there, but that is life right now. But that is specifically looking at the person in the photo looks like he's a pilot, and Southwest is having a lot of issues right now, and so are a lot of other places. I saw a pretty good TikTok, I think it was early this morning. Someone compiled all these celebrities talking about our healthcare workers and how they're heroes. And this is just like from a year ago. But they were really uplifting all those people because they wanted people to stay home. So they wanted to shame everyone who was making the job harder for all the people who are the health officials who had to treat them and so on. So they were really uplifting these people. And maybe they thought what they were actually doing was noble, but at that time they could uplift those people because they wanted to bash other people and make other people feel guilty. So now we flipped it. So more than a year later, we have healthcare officials who worked the entire pandemic, who probably have caught and have antibodies. Some people I follow who are work in the hospitals, they have medical issues themselves and do not want to take the vaccine for various reasons. And some are religious and some are whatever. Some is just, I don't want to, and they should have that right to do that too. But now these people are at risk of losing their jobs, being fired, and so on. There's one person I follow. We follow each other. So we're friends on the app, and she's to the point. She's been very, very concerned because she has history strokes and other things, and her job that she has is pretty essential, and her hospital is that she's working at is down as far as her professional field, and but she still plans to leave because will be fired because she doesn't plan to get the job because she has a medical history of strokes and other things, and so she's also working at this clinic, and so this clinic is thinking about taking her on full time, but they said she'd have better chances if she actually got vaccinated. So she's just like, I need a job. She works in Maine, and Maine isn't allowing like any sort of religious exemptions. We know New York isn't allowing any religious exemptions because the governor said that that all the people, religious leaders said there's not a legitimate reason. That was what she claimed, which I don't know what all religious leaders she talked to, but not all of them. And unless you talk to, I don't know, my pastor, why would I care? Why would I care? Why would I care? So that just drives me up a wall. But we talked about that. I think I think that was the last thing I talked about on the show last Wednesday. So it's pretty extreme, pretty crazy. But Southwest is having an issue now. They were saying that so many flights were canceled, thousands of flights, and so they were saying it was the weather. As people started noting, the weather looks pretty good. The weather looks really good. So what do you mean it's the weather? So little by little, the obvious is becoming more obvious that there's people not coming into work because of the mandates, because of the vaccine mandates. And the union associated with Southwest are saying they don't have anything that's planned. They don't have anything that's organized. But that doesn't mean people aren't doing it. And that doesn't mean that people are going to not just straight up end up quitting their job or having to be fired. But obviously, this is a consequence with these really, really silly, draconian measures that people are taking really just to be oppressive. I was talking to someone who works for a major insurance firm, and I knew that they probably would have to be vaccinated, mandated, and so on. So they did go ahead and they got the first shot. But this person has had COVID, so they definitely should have the antibodies, and it wasn't too long ago, so they should be pretty fresh. But they went ahead and got the first dose, and they're gonna get their second dose. And they said that their company is like taking away people's key cards, or their key cards and stuff aren't working and stuff if they're not vaccinated. Just kind of crazy things that they're pushing, but because they're going to make everybody get it. But in the meantime, when they're doing mandatory testing, they said that you will have to pay out of pocket for the mandatory testing. Now, for people who are like, oh, it's not a big deal if you're not vaccinated, you'll just have to be tested every week. First of all, those things do not feel pleasant. Especially people who I was with my sister when she was at the hospital when they were giving her one, and the nurse was just like, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. And you're just going to feel fine. And I don't know if she was trolling her or just really trying to talk her into being calm about it, but she's just like twirling the swab like all the way up into her brain. My sister's like, oh, no, like just kind of twitching as it's happening. And she's just like coughing and like it doesn't feel pleasant. So some people are rougher than others. It seems like the nurse had a gentle approach, but it doesn't feel comfortable, obviously. And so a lot of people went with the lockdowns and mandates and shots and so on because they want to get back to normal life. Some people are straight up afraid, and they're still afraid, and that's why they want everyone else to comply. But there's some people who really just want to get back to normal life. And like Biden said, we just need 100 days of masking. Do you remember that lie? We just need 100 days, just 100 days of masking, and we can all get back to normal. And then they tried that for a little bit, and then they decided to go really ham on these mandates and stuff. So there's people who went along with it, and they resent the fact that you won't surrender like they surrendered, even though they know internally they must know that they look like fools right now because nobody is letting up. but they still want you to comply because they complied. And so they want your will broken down. So, but there are people who are saying, well, you could just get tested every week. Well, it doesn't make any sense. That's the craziest thing. It doesn't make any sense that they don't care about your natural immunity, that you may actually have the antibodies, and that's actually better. And Project Veritas had an undercover video of people from Pfizer talking about the vaccine. And one of the things that they talked about on camera, of course, it was like undercover camera, so they didn't know that they were talking to a camera, but they said if you have natural immunity, that's actually better for you. So there's no account for whether someone has natural immunity in these mandates. It doesn't make any sense. And also doesn't make sense that if you're a 99-person company rather than a 100-person company, that they have the rules. Doesn't make any sense there. So Godspeed to the 100th employee who's no longer gonna have a job. But some people said, well, we're gonna make them consultants or contractors and stuff. Or there's some companies that are like, well, we'll just split off and make 2 different companies or something. So there's people definitely trying to find a way around it. But the thing that really doesn't make sense is the weekly testing, because if you are vaccinated, you can still catch it and you still can spread it. So if you come to work and there's someone who you get it from someone who's unvaccinated, who is vaccinated, but they don't test those folks, does that make you feel worse or better? Like, than if you got it with someone who's like not vaccinated? And how are you like really tracking this? Maybe you assume they got it from a non-vaccinated person, but they can totally get it from a vaccinated person. So it's possible, right? So if that's the case and you feel that testing is still that important, then why aren't you testing everyone? Why aren't you testing everyone? Because it's about breaking down the will of the people who won't comply. So I was glad to see I will not comply, we will not comply trending yesterday. And of course, you had people saying all kinds of hysterical things about these people. Some people were flat out like, you know what, just they'll die faster. We don't need them anymore. Talking about the vaccinated population. And I'm like, just goes to show you where people really are, that it's really about control rather than it is about caring about your well-being, when they're just like, go ahead and die anyway, which people felt that way about masks last year too. Like I had someone who, I was talking about going to church and someone said, well, my friend has a funeral home. I hope I don't see you there. I'm just like, did you just wish death on my life? Did you just wish death on me? And I'm like, I rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus. But if they're like, we just want to help you, just wear your mask. It's like, I'm okay, I'm good. And they're like, I hope you die. That's one reason why I wrote my book, Slay Your Fear. Because with Star Wars Day, when I got the idea for it, actually the beginning, the prologue opens up with like talking about the scene from Star Wars when Anakin went to Yoda, and he was talking about how fear is a path to the dark side, and fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate leads to suffering. And you could just see that people were so afraid, and then they were angry at people who wouldn't just comply, and now we're all suffering, right? Like, and the promises that they made to us about how you can get back to normal life if we just follow their orders. Normal life never really came. And there's people still waiting and still saying, oh, we gotta do whatever we can to stomp out this virus. Well, what is the end goal? Because the end goal is zero COVID in the world. That is not a realistic goal. That is not a realistic goal. We know a lot more about how to treat it. We do actually have treatments. We have a vaccine. We have a lot of people who have antibodies. So why can't we at least try to get back to normal life? We know who it affects. They didn't even start a big campaign to try to get people to lose weight in like being like, if you're elderly, like you're in danger. But man, if you're fat, you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna be in trouble. So they haven't handled this in a very scientific way. It's been very political, pretty much from jump, pretty much from the beginning. And I tell people, whenever all this first started, I was pretty optimistic. So I'm like, oh, this, because if I don't know, first people were saying make it seem like it wasn't that bad, and then they got into the US, where their cases started happening and people were very concerned. And then Trump was like, you know what, we're going to partner with the private sector. We're going to have people make masks. We're going to build ventilators. We're going to have this team together. We're going to, Pence is going to lead it. And so he really took charge in an aggressive, business sort of get things done. There was a lot of governors who were Democrats, like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo, who were in the press would be like, is he doing a bad job? Is he doing a bad job? And they're like, look, I know you want me to talk bad about Trump. And I'm paraphrasing. They're just like, I know you want me to talk bad about Trump. I want to talk bad about Trump. But they're kind of giving us everything we need. They're kind of doing a good job. Pence is kind of doing a good job. But then eventually tables had to turn. People realized how much power they could get using COVID, in which I compiled a video together with like Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, maybe Lori Lightfoot, and some other leaders saying, hey, we can use COVID to still push forward our agendas. And that's what it's been about for a long time. I mean, once Trump accepted the 15 days to slow the spread, to shut down the economy, which it shut down the country, which shut down the economy, and really people started taking their authority way further than actually they had the authority to do, like Whitmer and so on. Once that happened, that was pretty much the beginning of the end of his presidency. And I can't say that I blamed him for making certain choices when they were telling him we were going to lose millions of people. That like the first like couple projections were crazy, and far off, right? So I don't blame him, but that was like the beginning of the end. It really was, because that's when they started implementing. Oh, we're gonna make sure we do the mail-in. Like they wanted to get to that end goal. And when he was talking about having a vaccine, we're like, oh, everyone says that they're close. That they were downplaying the vaccine because they didn't want people to have an excuse, a reason to feel like it was safe to go to the polls, so they could not have the mail-in stuff. And they probably really wanted to make people seem that it wasn't safe to go to the polls, especially since they knew their people were doing the mail-in stuff. And once Trump was talking about like mail sucks, we can't trust the mail, that basically like bankrupt the the mail-in for like absentee Republican program. It really did. So Democrats, they put winning over people, and there's people still brainwashed and terrified to get back to normal life. People who have been vaccinated. We do not, and Biden's out there saying we need the protected, we need the unprotected, we need the unvaccinated to get vaccinated because the protected aren't protected. And it's like, what if that's true? How can we ever all be protected? It's just crazy. It's been crazy the whole time. It's just getting worse. And I'm glad that we have people at Southwest Airlines who are like, I'm not going to comply. There were some athletes who were sticking up and saying they weren't going to get vaccinated. There was one, they finally weighed him down. At first, he was like, respect my privacy. But now he went ahead and relented because they wouldn't let him play in home games. And they were really going at him. And people were just like, take one from the team. Shaq was said something about you when you accepted that contract, you need to think about your team. And I'm like, his contract did not say he'd have to get jabbed with a vaccine that's like brand new. That's not in his contract. So I was kind of disappointed. I was really disappointed in Shaq. Because actually when I heard my sister talk about it, I'm like, Shaq wouldn't say something like that. Pfft. And I was so confident, I convinced her that it couldn't have been Shaq. And she looked at me like, no, Shaq said it. I was like, dang, Shaq. So he went ahead and I guess relented, which I just found out earlier today. And he said he doesn't feel like he's free anymore. And a lot of people don't. And the truth is, I guess we aren't right now. I guess we really aren't right now. So kudos to the pilots and other staff who are saying enough is enough, and they're saying we won't comply. And there's people who missed their flights, or the flights were canceled. They were really, really annoyed because obviously when your flight is canceled, it just makes you stranded. It created these horrible lines at the airport as they try to figure it out, while they only had like a few employees trying to like reschedule everyone. But there's plenty of people who said, I don't mind so much. I'm less annoyed now that I know the reason why. And if people don't stand up. I was waiting to see what would happen. Would it be everybody just ends up complying pretty much? You're not going to get everybody to comply, but pretty much everybody, I guess. Or is there going to be enough people that stand up and say, no, enough is enough? So I'm glad, I guess, this is happening with the airlines. Even though Southwest, their CEO was pretty in, I don't know, big pharma, big government sort of power. I mean, I watched an interview before I came on with him saying that back in the days of mask mandates, he's like, well, you have to wear pants, so you got to wear masks. And my sister is like right over here, and she was listening, and she's like, you don't have to wear pants. It's true. You don't have to wear pants. You can wear a dress. You can wear a very long shirt and leggings or something. You know, you don't have to wear pants to go on there. I guess you have to wear bottoms, but you don't have to wear pants specifically. So that's not a thing. So that was not a great analogy. But the airports also doesn't make sense because the quality of the air is just different. So it's not likely that you'll catch it anyway. So but anyway, kudos to Southwest. I hope we have other professions that are going to stand up and decide that enough is enough. And get with the choose freedom. And I know it's hard. There's so many people put in a really bad position, whether they're going to feed their families, or whether they're going to stand up and you know, I don't talk about the vaccine so much because I think it's gonna kill everybody, or I have a severe distrust of the government. I do have a distrust of the government, but if you think I'm talking about it like this because I think this is gonna turn everybody to I am legend monsters, that is not the case. That's not why I talk about it. But I feel strongly that mandates are evil. As a matter of fact, I wrote an article that said mandates are evil. I do believe it's evil, and we're at a very bad place when they can just force you to get the jobs, especially since, you know, Biden, not too long ago, they said we can't do mandates or we won't do mandates. And they've straight up lied about it. And now they're pretending because they give you an option, which isn't really much of an option, that they're not forcing you to get it. You can play games all you want, but we understand what you're doing. So I'm against forced vaccinations. I'm against the mandates. I think everybody should be able to choose whatever they want to do. I do not have an issue if someone wants to decide to do it. The only issue I have, I think parents who are really scared and want it for their kids, young kids, it doesn't make any sense, and there's more risk to them. Gosh, there was a I think it was a Walgreens that vaccinated a family went in for flu shots, and they gave their young kids COVID shots, and they even gave them a vaccine card. So it wasn't much of a mistake. I don't see you say it was much of a mistake. Walgreens called them like, oh shoot, we gave them COVID shots. And so they took the kids to like a hospital, and they were showing signs of heart issues. So people were saying, well, that family's probably going to own the Walgreens. Well, we don't know because many people are taking liability for this. So best they'll probably get is a little bit from the government, because you can't sue these companies. But I guess that particular Walgreens did obviously make a mistake, though they did give them vaccine cards. So I don't know how you do that, bruh. I don't know how you do that. But thank you to everyone who's standing up. And somebody has to. In Michigan, there was some athletes who did sue, and they ended up winning their case. And we'll see if that progresses any way forward. If the school fights back harder. But right now they said that the school is violating their First Amendment rights. So thank you to everyone who's fighting this, because there's a lot of people who feel that it's not worth it. There's no legal action that you can take, but somebody has to try. Somebody has to try. So thank God to the people who are actually trying. Next, I do want to move on and talk about. I want to talk about the Superman thing. So, New York Times reported that the new Superman will soon begin a romantic relationship with a male friend. And the person writing the book said the idea of replacing Clark Kent with another straight white savior felt like a missed opportunity. Yeah, so that is actually not Clark Kent. That is his son, Jonathan Kent. And I did look up this guy, Tom Taylor, because I was convinced this guy was going to have pink hair and glasses, but he did not have pink hair and glasses. But sometimes these writers do write themselves into the books. Like there's a book called I Am Not Starfire, and it's about Starfire's daughter. Now, if you've seen a picture of Starfire, she's like a orange, fiery goddess, kind of like so not ashamed about her body. With like the skimpiest sort of outfit that you can have, and she's just joyous and a little hoochie, but not a little hoochie. She a lot hoochie. Um, but in this comic book, she had a daughter who was like a fat, short goth girl, and if you look, and even people who are fat, short, gay, and like this person was, I've seen them complain about the comic book, and they look at the writer and they're like, this is clearly a self-insert. And I did read the book; it was awful. So I'm not surprised that DC Comics would do this. And there's a show right now on the CW, which they have a lot of LGBT stuff on the CW, a lot of LGBT stuff, and they have a Lois and Superman show, and in the show he does have two sons. And I'm like, it's only a matter of time. At least is my opinion. And with DC Comics doing this in the book, I definitely would think that one of those boys is probably going to be gay. And I don't mention because I think it's unrealistic for, I guess, that to happen. But man, they are trying so hard. They are trying so hard. And it's so obvious with the comic book industry and the direction that they're going. Like, and this Superman is like a left, like he cares about climate change, and he tried to stop refugees from having to leave, and all these other issues that they're near and dear to their hearts. I'm like, whatever happened to, like, I don't know, punching Darkseid in the face? You know, and I'm not saying they don't still do that, but they have they take these characters that people love, that people created, and that were supposed to stand for truth, justice, the American way. And you have some people who don't even like those things anymore. Like you had Ta-Nehisi Coates writing, who's very nihilistic about America, not optimistic about America, has a very kind of dark view of America. And he was writing Captain America. And he's the one who made Jordan Peterson like the Red Skull. And it's like 10 rules for life, but it was 10 rules for chaos. And basically saying that, making a parallel to Jordan Peterson and Red Skull about how they lead, I don't know, young men to be Nazis, which is insane. But those are sort of people that they're hiring in the comic books world. And I don't understand why exactly. It seems like they're appealing to, maybe they've captured this audience now, because I don't know who still would read this garbage, because I don't read them anymore. Wednesdays used to be a time when the family was like so excited to get the books. Like my dad, when I was young, you know, he would bring them and it wasn't such a big deal. But in some, oh gosh, I hated going in the car on Wednesdays, and dad would be like, oh, I'm just driving to the store. Like, you know, your mom will go to the store and be like, I'm going to pick up one thing, and she's in there for like an hour. That's how my dad would be at the comic book store. And you know, and you pick out your books and you talk to people in the store about what's coming out, like what cool, like you know, memorabilia you can get. Like we had a Thor's hammer, Captain America's shield before the movie, way before the movies came out. And my dad wanted to learn how to read because his father brought him home a comic book. So this is something that's like long standing in our family. And I don't like them anymore. and I started, and there were just some bad stories that they had before, prior to like being injected with some crazy politics. But they are so devoted to the politics that it's beyond anything that makes sense. I'm like, do these people care about money anymore? And I'm not bringing this up because I don't believe that you should have representation, but But there's a time when you have representation and it's just straight up indoctrination. Like there's shows with LGBT characters that I straight up adore. Have you ever seen the show Revenge? Nolan, he was a great character. A great character. They have great characters who are LGBT, who, but when you're so devoted to telling your narrative rather than just letting a story breathe, that's when all your stuff is garbage. And that is why manga, which will have LGBT, gay characters in their stuff sometimes, depending on what it is, they are outselling DC. They're outselling Marvel. That's Japanese, comic books and stuff. They are outselling. They are outpacing. Even big books like Batman, they are outselling because they just tell their story. They just care about their characters. They don't care about all this politics. We can't even enjoy entertainment anymore because we're so devoted to ideology. And it drives me up a wall. It drives me up a wall. So, like, again, I'm not surprised that DC did this. Absolutely not surprised at all. And I'm not saying it's totally far-fetched, but it's totally reaching with the amount of things that they do as far as wanting to make their characters so political, make their stories so political. And this isn't like a one-time thing. They also made Tim Drake, Robin, they made him gay. Or he's trying to figure it out. Well, he's been alive for a character for like 30 years. He hasn't figured it out yet. he hasn't figured it out. And there's older writers who have spoken up about this stuff, spoken against this stuff, and obviously the direction that these newer people are going, where they take these characters that are fleshed out, and it's like they hollow them out and have someone else wear their skin. I mean, they don't even feel like the characters they're supposed to represent, especially like Captain America. They had a book come out like 4th of July, and he's like, I don't even know what the American dream is anymore. I'm like, I don't want to read about this Captain America. I don't know who he is, but he's not Steve Rogers. He shouldn't wear that shield anymore. He shouldn't wear that outfit. And but really, those people shouldn't be writing those books. But you have people who have, I don't know, contempt for the nation. Maybe straight up Marx. I don't know, but people who don't even have a love for these characters, because if you had a love for the characters, you'd respect them and you'd respect where they came from. You wouldn't be trying to dramatically preach through them. You would create new characters to do that. So comic books are at a really bad place. Pop culture is at a bad place. And I don't know if they can feel like they can write the crazy stuff in the comic books, but I think eventually it will catch up more to what they're doing in different series and stuff. And you'll see that stuff on Disney Plus, and you'll see that stuff on CW or on HBO Max and so on. It'll bleed through and you'll see it everywhere. So I don't know, go buy manga. Like I don't watch pretty much any TV. I don't really read the manga and stuff myself too much. But I was really, really big on anime growing up, and I'm watching some stuff that I didn't finish right now as a kid. But they have good stories. It was always my dream, because I write books, a lot of fiction books, and it was always my dream to like write a book and it'd be adapted to like major movie screenplay, or like some of them TV shows and so on. And there's some I'm like, this would be perfect for the CW. And I'm like, especially since the CW never cancels anything. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be safe there. I'm like, not because I think it would be canceled, but I would hate for a story not to be finished. But now I'm like, I would never. And I said, you know what? I want to have a studio one day and just have all my stuff adopted into anime looking stuff and just stream it. Like that's what these companies are so crazy. They're so crazy. And when you reach the point where they care more about narrative than they even care about making $1, that's scary to me. That is straight up scary to me. So some news that is ultra annoying to me, I just thought I would share. And It's really too bad. Like I said, we grew up with comic books. We love comic books. I have this is no exaggeration. I have thousands of books at my house. And like I said, we had Captain America Shield and Thor's Hammer before the movies and stuff were coming out. Um, you know, I think they call people who only watch the Marvel movies and stuff normies, when you're just like really into the movies and you're not like coming from like the knowledgeable world and stuff. We're pretty knowledgeable, like, and we used to be their opening night, and now I'm at the point where I don't want to see like any of that stuff personally. Um, and I didn't go see Shang-Chi for that reason, because I think some of these companies are evil, and at some point we got to stop supporting the lunacy. So I've decided to make I've made my decision, and you guys can make it whenever you want to, if you do. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. It's just too bad. Anyway, that is the show for today. I want to encourage you guys again to go to blacktnews.com, share my content that I have, articles that I've written, and please check out different things that I have on the store. I do have some new stuff, like this really cool pumpkin spice season mug. I've got them in black, red, and orange with, Trump, because they call him the orange pumpkin sometimes. So I decided to do a chibi Trump. I did draw that myself. So you go ahead and get that. And I do also have them in shirts. Those are unisex, though. The models are all women, but those are in unisex. So if you want to get those, you can get those at the website. Also got this My Money, My Business shirt. So you can tell those pro-choice people when they try to come at you, especially you men, they say no uterus, no opinion. And it's like, oh no, you want my tax dollars to pay for it? You want Planned Parenthood funded? No, we're going to talk about this. And you're not just going to push me out of the conversation. So that's available at blacktnews.com as well. And of course, we got stuff with like goat hoodie that's in different colors. Oh my gosh, let me tell you guys this. Let me tell you guys this before I close. My sister, we were driving home from church yesterday, and so she told me, I tried to do an ad for you, but Facebook rejected it. And I'm like, first of all, thank you, because I didn't know she was going to run an ad for my stuff. But she tried to do one for my goat hoodie, and they rejected it. And then she also tried to do one for the pumpkin spice. And so I think it was like a promoted post, probably, because I posted about my goat hoodies before there was like a price change on them. And so she tried to promote it and they wouldn't let her. And the reason why they said, and then she tried to do one for the My Money, My Business shirt. The post was the only, I said, okay, the next time someone tells you my body, my choice, tell them my money, my business. And I think there was a little bit I said after that, but they said, no, you can't do that one. And they said, your ad may have been rejected because it mentions politicians or is about sensitive social issues that could influence public opinion, how people vote, and may impact the outcome of an election or pending legislation. Our policy for running ads about social issues, electoral or politics requires you get it authorized first by confirming your identity and creating a disclaimer that lists who is paying for the ads. So that's fine, I guess. I could do that when it's obviously me paying for the ad. It's kind of like a given from the credit card information, I guess. But in this case would have been my sister, who is on the page as an admin. But when it says you can't run this ad because it covers it may change public opinion. No crap! No crap, Facebook. That's what I want to do. That's why I have my show. I want to change public opinion about different issues. That is the point. I've literally gotten Planned Parenthood ads on my Facebook. Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that, but my sister Tina just made a face. I was trying to interpret it. That's why I was like, but she said she's literally gotten Planned Parenthood ads. Now, I guess maybe that's because they've had their disclaimer or whatever, or got it approved or whatever. But why? Why do they need you to do that? Why do they need? And you obviously know it's from whoever decided to pay for the ad. So they. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. So they rejected that ad, and so she was able to run one for the pumpkin spice shirts. She was able to run one for that. So I guess she got approved for that, and we'll see how that ad does. But I think at that point she was just trying to see. So anyway, they don't want you to. Facebook doesn't want you to have the shirt because it could influence public policy. Well, I want it to. That's absolutely why I made this. I designed it myself. So please go to blacktnews.com and consider buying it for yourself. And next time you get into an argument about abortion, which they don't want you to talk about social issues, or they don't want ads that may influence social issues. I want you to influence people. So here's my ad, me talking to you. Go get the shirt. So anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.